Hey everybody, welcome into another episode of the Red Mile Rundown. I don't know about you, but that theme song always gets me a little bit pumped up to jump on the mic and chat some Flames hockey. Another great week in front of us, another great week we just had. Flames on the road trip back at home, and as always, here to discuss this stuff with me, my co-host Robert Munich. Robert, how are you? Still in Arizona? Still treating you well down there?
Oh yeah. Sun shining. Been playing some golf. Life is good down here. And tonight we got our very first Amazon Prime Calgary Flames game to look forward to. I'm sure the fan base is going to react well to having to have Amazon Prime to watch their hockey team.
I've already seen it on X and on social media. I laugh because I have Prime. I actually personally prefer Prime to Netflix. There's just a lot more on Prime for me to watch. So I already have it. And plus I have an Amazon account to buy stuff for Christmas because, it's easy that way. So I'm all set for tonight's game. I'm very excited for it because I like that broadcast. If you ever watched any of the Amazon games in the past, they're absolutely great broadcasts. I like the intermissions with Adnan Virk and Mark Messier. Really good broadcast crew with John Borsling calling these games. I like it personally. So I'm excited for it as the Flames are back home.
I would say it's like one of the best hockey broadcasts in the NHL right now. They do such a good job.
I've had a few people who are like, what's the NHL doing trying to rival Monday Night Football with a hockey game? I'm like, well, the NHL doesn't care about other leagues. It's clear in their scheduling, and they put a really good product that those who don't actually care about the NFL, that's a really good product for them to go watch. And so every Monday night, I find myself double screening, one screen Amazon, one screen Monday Night Football. And it's usually the football that I mute at the end of the day, which gives credit to the broadcast that Amazon has put together. So I'm excited for tonight's broadcast and to see what the Flames can bring here. Robert, they're back at home now after a 3-game road trip. I want to throw it over to you, what you saw on this road trip. Some interesting hockey games out east for the Flames. What did you make of this road trip?
Yeah, it was definitely interesting. I mean, there was a common theme for sure in slow starts and strong finishes. So if you look at the 3-2 win in Montreal, the Flames were down 2-1. They came back and won. In Boston, they were down 3-1. They came back to push that to overtime, where they ultimately lost on I don't know what Rasmus Andersson was doing on that overtime goal. I'm still puzzled by that.
Yes.
And then in Buffalo on Saturday, they were down 2-0 early in the first period, came back and lost in a shootout. So they're getting off to dreadful starts, just terrible, terrible starts. But for some reason, these guys, they find a way to come back and scratch and claw their way back into games and somehow getting points. I mean, they're 3-5-2 in their last 10 games. And I don't know how they've collected, 8 points out of that, because the way that they're playing right now, they honestly don't really even deserve to collect that many points. But in terms of the road trip, a couple things stood out for me. One, the goaltending was very good once again. It's just been rock solid the whole year outside of 2 games. Dustin Wolf was great. Dan Vladar was pretty solid himself in Buffalo, so I really liked that. But the whole starting slow thing, it's not sustainable in this league. The NHL, it's just too good a league to be continuing to put yourself behind the 8 ball and having to come back. It is not sustainable whatsoever. So I don't know what the hell Ryan Huska has to do to get these guys going. I don't know what the leadership group has to do to get going, but they have to start stronger because, it's killing them right now. So those are kind of the main things that I saw. There's one other thing I'll kind of talk about after you here, but what did you see from them in this 3-game road trip?
It's funny because you go back on Twitter or X or wherever you like to put on social media your thoughts. And all 3 of these games had the theme that you laid out there in my tweets, where first period, the frustration, the what are we doing here tweets are out there. The second period, it's all about okay, that was better. You see something coming along. Then third's like, oh my goodness, what is happening here? This is incredible. And then the overtime periods happen. It's incredible that you can watch these hockey games and you have 3 distinct different efforts depending which period you're watching here. In notoriously slow starts now are starting to be a thing for this team. It was before the road trip. We saw a few of them. We saw them on this road trip. I think this goes beyond Ryan Huska having these guys prepared. We'll talk about that a little bit as well. The mentality of this group, they don't seem to be prepared to start a hockey game. I don't understand it. I don't know how you fix it. You mentioned coach or leadership, or however that goes about, however it works out. But then you have this not quit attitude in these third periods where this team digs in deep, creates a lot more chances, becomes this incredibly stout defensive group all of a sudden, and their goaltending obviously bails you out at the end of the day. So I saw much like what you saw here, where it's just like, we got to stop with these slow starts because this is not sustainable. Like you mentioned, you can't do this. I'm surprised they've done it this long already into the season. Um, Great finishes, but where's this effort to start these hockey games? Where is that passion, that give a crap meter from the third period? Why aren't we seeing that for the first half of these hockey games? So that for me is the big thing I take away from this road trip. Yes, you still got the results. We both said last week on the show 4 of 6 points would be a really good road trip. Well, they got that on this road trip. So it was a really good road trip, but there's a few hard lessons they also have to learn from this road trip. And they got to start it when they have a back-to-back here, 2 big divisional opponents to start this week at home. You got to start bringing those lessons, and you got to start doing them right now here.
Yeah, totally agree. And like you said, I'm almost like puzzled. It's like watching two different teams. It's the first period, they look terrible. They look like a bottom 5 NHL team. And then I find the second, they look pretty average. Not a lot really happens in the second periods. And then in the third, they just pour it on, and they look like a really good NHL team. It's just it's crazy. You honestly just don't know what you're gonna get from this hockey team right now. So it's pretty puzzling. In terms of individual performances, I'll point out some positives over the last 3 games. I once again thought Michael Backlund, Blake Coleman, Matt Coronado were really good, especially Coronado. Obviously, guy scored 3 goals and 1 assist in those 3 games, and the goals were clutch too. Coronado looks like a different player. I think that's something maybe you want to touch on, but he really does look like a different player after getting called up. Like he looks a little faster. He looks a little more confident, a little more sure of himself. Like he kind of knows what he needs to do at the NHL level to be successful. And super, super impressed with him. And I also thought the D-core for the most part, like the top 4 of Anderson, Uyghur, Ball, Pahal, I thought were also like pretty good on this road trip. Especially Uyghur. I actually thought that was some of the best hockey he's played all year, especially in Boston and Buffalo. I just thought he was really, really solid. And it's good timing for him too, because I believe Don Sweeney and Doug Armstrong were in attendance. They're the GMs or co-GMs of Team Canada for the 4 Nations. And I believe Mackenzie Uyghur's on their radar. Not sure if he's going to make the team, but I think he's going to be in the mix for sure. But the one thing I just kind of want to touch on here in this 3-game road trip, and this goes back like the last 10 games, is that I'm finding that the Flames, it looks like it's excruciatingly difficult for them to put together offense right now. Like the way they have to score goals is by just grinding, just working their ass off. Like there's very little like skill involved right now in their offensive generation and their goal scoring. Like to me, it looks like, outside the Backlund, Coronado, Coleman line, like it just looks like there's like zero chemistry with this team. And the big thing that's standing out is that there's just no playmakers. And this is a complaint I had about the Flames last season. It just seemed like they really lacked those guys that could pass the puck and make high IQ plays. And coming into this season, I thought that they might have it in guys like Kadri, Kuzmenko, if Huberdeau bounced back, Zary. I thought those guys, they all have a pretty good skill set, but like, man, it's not there this year. And I'm just finding like it's just incredibly difficult for them to produce offense, and they are having to just absolutely grind for goals right now.
Yeah, lots to react to there. I'll go back to your Coronado thing. For me, Matthew Coronado, he took the message of being sent to the AHL, whatever the coaching staff and management said to him before he went to the Wranglers for that few days. He took it personally. He took his playing with the Wranglers personally. He took it as a message the right way, and he responded in the right way. He earned himself elevation in the lineup. He earned himself playing with guys who he can that can help get the best out of this guy. He took advantage of maybe an injury situation to Anthony Mantha on getting more playing time, and it's worked for this guy. He looked like if he wasn't the best Flame on this road trip, you'd be hard-pressed to find 2 or 3 guys that were better than this guy. Coronado took it personally the right way. He responded the right way. And it reminded me a lot of Mangiapane a few years ago when the Flames sent him down, brought him back up after a few games, and you never saw the AHL again with that guy. Very similar here for me with what Coronado has done here. He's earned it, and he continually plays with it. And it's great to see. It's absolutely positive to see. We'll touch on it a little bit later in the show here, especially after the Mantha news we got today from the Flames. Coronado now has an opportunity to continue to be in this lineup and progress. You're talking about the D here. I love when you talked about the D. When you said top four, you had my ears perk up a little bit because I was hoping you would mention Bahal over Miramanoff, and you did.
Because of course.
I think we saw better from Miramanoff in a couple of instances in those games, but Bahal was absolutely what you need Braden Bahal to be. He absolutely was a stud back there for the Flames when he was called upon. I agree with your Mackenzie Weegar projections of these games, what you saw, his projection to be on Team Canada. I love what I saw from him over this road trip. Starting to get back to a little bit more of what we saw last year from Mackenzie Weegar, where he was more comfortable with the puck, more comfortable in his own end. You can see he's kind of adjusted to how Miramanoff's been playing a little bit more. So he's now used to this lesser Miramanoff than what we saw last year, I guess was how we'll put it there. Anderson had some moments where I didn't exactly love his game, especially that overtime, whatever that was. But I thought that Kevin Ball elevated his game when Anderson wasn't at his strongest. Really liked that road trip from Kevin Ball. He's quite the conversation on social media. A lot of people don't like this guy, and a lot of people love this guy. Count me in the love this guy conversation. So I like that. The top four of Flames.
I don't know. How can you not like Kevin Ball right now? Like I think that's like crazy. If people have that opinion, like that's wild. He's been awesome for the Flames.
Me too. There's no offense there, and for some reason, if you don't bring offense as a defenseman, there is a certain facet of the fan base that just doesn't like you. The same people that didn't like other defensemen who don't bring in all this offense. You got these stay-at-home guys that you need to have on a roster to be successful, and you had that in years gone past with other teams winning Stanley Cup. Scott Stevens was never an offensive guy. He played with the guy who brought the offense, and he was very successful at it. An extreme example, yes, but that's how I see Kevin Ball. He's that style. He's that the modern day.
Sorry to interrupt you there, John, but like the crazy thing about Ball this year is that he has 6 assists in 15 games. He only had 11 points all of last year, and he played in all 82. And the 6 assists is literally second place on the Flames behind Kuzmenko and Anderson, who both have 7. So he's in sole possession of, I guess, third place on the Flames right now in assists. Like it's crazy, just like the lack of production from this team, but also, Ball's, he's been moving the puck like okay. Like I don't think it's quite as bad as some people are making it out to be.
Absolutely. I absolutely agree with you. It's an indictment on the Flames offense a little bit that Kevin Ball's that high, but at the same time, this guy's bringing what you want to the lineup every day, and he's the perfect pair for a Rasmus Anderson. The one thing I wish we had from Ball is a second Ball so we could play him with Mackenzie Weegar because that's what we need here. If we could clone this guy, because that's what Mackenzie Weegar needs, that'd be awesome to have here. And then to your last point here, where I'm seeing a lot of the same things here where the Flames are very much struggling to produce high danger opportunities. You go back on Natural Stat Trick, and I didn't do that homework. Apologies for the show today. But every game when I read post game with Ryan Pike or whoever else does great breakdowns for us, Flames Nation has a bunch of guys that do really good breakdowns of deep dives and analytics. The high dangers are always a little bit lopsided against the Flames. They just don't create enough inside for me. And it's hard to create scoring chances from the outside of the National Hockey League. These goalies are way too good that you're rarely going to beat them from a shot well out unless you're a special player like a Makar. But the Flames have really got to work on that for me. Get inside, create that offense. And these playmakers that you mentioned, the Kadris, the Kuzmenkos, the Hubertos, even Zari needs to pick up just a little bit and help this team along. And it's going to be score by committee. You're not going to have a guy be 100-point guy. I don't think we're even going to see a guy be a 90-point guy on this Flames team. If you get a guy or two close to point per game, that'll be a successful season offensively for this team. But you need guys to help drive that bus. And I don't know how you fix it unless you get more playmakers. But that's easier said than done. So we'll see how this Flames offense adjusts to that. If they can start creating more, the power play will help if they can get that going a little bit more frequently and be a little bit more sharp when they have the man advantage. Everyone's talked about that to nauseum, how bad the power play has been. Just change it around a little bit. We'll see what else comes along from these Flames teams. One thing as well that you and I were messaging back and forth during some of these hockey games is we've noticed that some of these veteran players, I won't say the word that we used on our text messages, but haven't really been playing consistently up to par. So I'm going to throw it over to you here, Robert. What are you seeing from the veterans of this Flames team? What more do you want to see from them? And is there anyone in particular that you really want to key on here and say, hey, you just, besides Huberdeau, because we all know that conversation, right? That we need more from you in particular.
Well, I think you're being very kind to these veteran players with the way you're phrasing things right now, and I respect that. But I mean, I would go out and say that these there's 6 players that I've targeted here who I think have just been downright terrible. Really, probably outside of one of them, but like when we're looking back here, like it's mainly after like the last like 10 games here. The offense has just completely dried up, and I wrote about this at Flames Nation. And I'll just kind of talk about some of the stats that I came up with here. So in the last 10 games,
great article by the way. If you haven't read that one, go read that one. Really good article by Robert here.
Thank you so much. You're too kind. But yeah, in the last 10 games, the Flames, they're 3-5-2. So that's 27th in the NHL in points percentage, and a big reason why they've struggled so much is because they can't score. And in that time, they've scored 22 goals in those 10 games, which is 29th in terms of goals per game in the NHL right now. And I think there's a couple of reasons. One, it's the veteran forwards that just have not stepped up and have been really, really bad in these last 10 games. And then the second is the power play, and that kind of dovetails into one another. The 6 guys that I'm kind of pointing out right now are Nazem Kadri, Jonathan Huberdeau, Andrei Kuzmenko, Connor Zary, Yegor Sharangovich, and Martin Pospisil. Those 6 guys, they have to step up. They have to start producing more offense, because if they're not going to, the Flames are absolutely screwed. You can't be relying on Michael Backlund and Blake Coleman and Matt Coronado to be creating all your offense and to be scoring all your goals. You can't be relying on your blue line to do that. The guys that I just mentioned have to be way better. And just some context on some of these players. So this season, Nazem Kadri, he's on pace for 43 points. 43 points. In his last 10 games, he has 1 assist. You know, he's scoring goals. He's on pace for 27 goals, which is great, but there is just 0 playmaking from him. Last year, he led the Flames in assists with 46, and this season, he's on pace for only 16. 16 assists. That's a
jump in here for a second,
drop
Rob.
off. Yes, drop in for sure.
We all remember Huberdeau's first 2 years and 45 points. You would have murdered Huberdeau on social media over those numbers. And this guy is getting praise on social media for his leadership abilities and what he's bringing to this lineup. I think Nazem Kadri, you mentioned it there, 10 games, 1 assist, has been putrid. I really think he has been putrid. He starts these games, his line's getting scored on. He's not producing the offense. He's not driving his line like we'd like to see. I know he loves the puck on his stick, and you want him to have the puck on his stick and create this offense, but you're not seeing it. The play is going on his stick and then dying more times than not. It's not good enough from Nazem Kadri. Before you mention any of these other guys, I think it starts with this guy. Long-term contract, big money, a guy brought in who's won a cup to be a veteran presence, to be a leader. What are we seeing from him? And it's none of those things for me right now. And it's very disheartening to see, because what he is not doing is affecting his line mates. And you'll talk about them with Kuzmenko. It's just not good enough for Nazem Kadri. And this guy needs to stop getting the kids' gloves treatment on social media and on platforms and all these forums that Flames like to write on. Stop giving Nazem Kadri the kid gloves. He's been not good enough, and that I think starts a lot of the problems for the Flames starts on Nazem Kadri's stick. Yes, it might sound harsh, but Nazem, we need more.
Well, you do need more from him. He's supposed to be your best forward. He led the team in points last year. He led the team in assists last year. He's supposed to be your go-to guy, and he certainly hasn't been that so far this year. You know, the one thing I like about his game is that he does shoot the puck, and I think that others on the Calgary Flames could take note with the way that he gets pucks on net. And I do think he's getting a lot of chances, which I think is fantastic. But at the same time, it's a lot of like individual play. Like there's not a lot of using his teammates. There's not a lot of making his teammates better, which is something that he's done in the past, especially last year. So I just think like moving forward, you'd like to see him just be a bit more of a playmaker, use his teammates a little bit more, continue to shoot the puck, but maybe also kind of diversify your game a little bit, because
100%.
without Nazem Kadri producing at like a 70-ish point pace, the Flames are screwed. Like they need him to be way better. And then like the same can be said for a guy like Jonathan Huberdeau. Crazy stat. He's on pace for 22 assists this year. 22. Like this is a guy who came into the Calgary Flames organization regarded as one of the best playmakers in the entire NHL. And he's on a 22 assist point pace for 82 games. It's by far the worst of his career. It's not even close. So like he's not making plays. Luckily, he's scoring some goals. He's on pace for 27 goals. Once again, that's great. But you're paying Huberdeau to set guys up. You're paying Huberdeau to make people better. Like he needs to be like a 40, not even 40. He needs to be like a 50 assist guy. He needs to be making his teammates better. And when he's not doing that, he's not very effective at all. And like the same can be said for Kuzmenko. He's only scored 1 goal this year. That's not good enough for arguably the most talented forward on your team. Like Kuzmenko, based off what I saw at the end of last year in his connection with Kadri, I really thought that this guy could have been like a point per game player. And he's just been nothing close to it. You look at Yegor Sharangovich, like I know he just returned the lineup and he's been playing a lot of minutes at center. So like, you know, there's some excuses there for his lack of production, but he's only got 2 goals in 8 games, no assists. Martin Pospisil has no points in his last 10 games, and we'll dive into him a little bit more. But one guy I kind of want to talk about is Connor Zary as well. I do think the process is there with Zary. Like, I think he's playing really well, and I think he's creating a lot for him and his teammates. I really like his game, but just the production's not there. And I don't know if that's just because of who he's playing with or if his teammates just aren't putting the puck in the back of the net. And I know one critique I have of Zary's game is that he needs to work on his shot. His shot is just not good enough right now because he puts himself in so many positions to score. Like he's such a smart, skilled player, but like he just has such a hard time scoring goals because I just don't think his shot is at the level it needs to be at if you want to be like a legit top 6 forward. So like those are just some of the numbers that I was able to come up with. Straight up, it's not good enough. It's been really bad. The last 10 games in particular have been bad. Like Huberdeau has 3 points his last 10. Kuzmenko 3 points his last 10. Zary 3 points his last 10. Pospisil 0. When those 6 guys aren't scoring and aren't productive, this is a really, really bad hockey team, unfortunately. And it's actually quite surprising because coming into the year, I thought these guys would be way better than they've been so far.
Man, that's a lot to take in.
Sorry about that.
No, that's great. I love it. I love to sit back and listen to you there. I'm going to go back to Huberdeau, and I only have one thing to say. I only have one thing to say on Huberdeau, then I'm going to move on here. You laid out the numbers there, and if you do the quick math, that's a 47 points. That's just over half a point per game. You're paying $10.5 million for that. That's rough, but I'm not going to rag on Huberdeau. I've done that enough.
Well, and one thing I just want to add.
Yeah.
I don't like calling out Calgary media or anything, but like you kind of mentioned that, you know, the fan base and the media groups are kind of treating Nazem Kadri kids gloves. It's the same thing with Huberdeau. He's been really bad. He's on pace, like you just said, for I believe it's about 49 points this year. That'd be the worst output of his time with the Flames, and it's already been terrible. Like he has been really, really bad, and people need to start kind of telling the truth about that and calling it out because he's just been awful. And like I keep hearing people in the media, people talk about, oh, Huberdeau is one of the best passers in the league. Like this guy's one of the best playmakers. He's not. He's not even close to being that anymore.
Yeah.
He's a completely different player now. It's baffling. It's bizarre. I don't know what the hell has happened to this guy, but man, it's tough to watch, and he has to get it going. He has to, because if it's not happening this year, when's it going to happen? He's going to be 32, 33 next season, and it's hard to watch. I really hope this guy can get it going.
Yeah, I'm done hearing how Huberdeau, hey, he looked a little better tonight. That's the standard that your $10.5 million player is being held to. Hey, he wasn't as awful as he was 2 nights ago, type of thing. It's not good enough. It's not good. I gave Kadri the gears today. Huberdeau got the gears a few episodes ago. I'm sure someone else will get the gears next week. Kuzmenko probably should get the gears as well for how invisible he looked. He's showing us right now what Rick Tocchet was talking about last season. This is what Rick Tocchet told everyone last year, why he was being scratched, why he was fourth line minutes, why he didn't believe in this player and didn't trust this player. He's showing it, and he's on the same track to be scratched again. I'm surprised he hasn't been already. I know he had that fourth line game for a couple of shifts, but he's on track to be scratched, because what does he bring into your lineup if he's not scoring goals for you? The Martin Pospisil and Sharon Govich, those guys, for me, I don't want to say give them a pass, but I understand why production is not as high for those two guys, being flipped around the lineup a lot. Are you a center? Are you not a center? I think that's on the coaching a little bit. Give them a role, give them a spot, and let them go to work, and just leave them alone. And Sharon Govich should never touch the faceoff dot ever again, in my opinion. Put him on the wing and let him go to work and do what he does best. Rip those shots from the faceoff dot, use that deception he has in his release, and find some confidence in this guy. He's just coming back from a big injury. Build him up a little bit more. Don't make him drag along the boat anchor that is Jonathan Huberdeau and Anthony Mantha for a while there. And let Pospisil go play on the wing as well. Like I've mentioned it for episode after episode. He's much more effective there. Let him go back to work and get his game back. But you do need more from these guys. It's also on the players to elevate their game. And you mentioned Connor Zary there. It hurt my heart a little bit, but you're absolutely spot on. I glossed on this guy for 4 episodes in a row. How much I have like his game, like what he's bringing to the lineup, the potential I see in this player, and he's just struggling to find that finish, whether that's because he's playing with who he's playing with, but he's been given all the minutes you could ask for on 5-on-5 to find that finish, to be able to be the player that you need him to be to help this team be successful. He had a really, really good start to this season, and now it's time for him to elevate a little bit more. It's hard when you're playing with Nazem Kadri, who's kind of a selfish player, but find a way. Go to the net, make yourself available, and do everything in your power to be the player that got you to this level. Be true to who you are as a hockey player, and you'll find success. Is very much my personal belief in any hockey player that comes to the National Hockey League. Be who you are, and you'll find the success that you are destined to have. So you got to have your veterans playing better than what we've seen. They got lucky on this road trip. I don't want to take away and sound like I'm negative on the road trip. I saw a lot of good things, but they got lucky on these road trips to come back each and every game and get those points, get to overtime. You can't keep tempting that fate, and it starts with these veterans that you mentioned. It starts with your leaders taking on a bigger role and leading this group out of this thing. And another thing it starts with that we'd like to talk about as well is these veterans that we've been talking about. These are your power play guys as well, and that's been a big struggle for the Flames over the course of this entire season. They get going, your power play might get going. It kind of, for me, goes hand in hand. How do you see it, Robert? If we can get these veterans going, maybe this power play can get going here.
100%. And the power play is actually pretty good to start the year. It was humming right around 27%, like the first 5 games, and the vets were a big part of it. Kuzmenko was making plays, Huberdeau was scoring goals, Kadri was making plays. Like it looked really good. Mackenzie Weegar scored a couple goals, but it's just completely dried up. In the last 10 games, the Flames power play is at 7.4%, which is last in the NHL. Dead last. And it's not even close. I think the next closest team was like 12%. So it's been pretty abysmal. Wolf is right. It's not good. It's tough to watch, and for me, it all starts with the entries. The Calgary Flames cannot enter the zone. It's hard to watch, and they had the luxury for so long there of having Johnny Gaudreau single-handedly be a power play entry merchant. He was so good at that, and ever since they lost him, they've really been looking for that guy, and they still don't have it because Kadri, Sharangovich, Kuzmenko, Huberdeau, Weegar, like all those guys, Kadri's pretty good at carrying the puck, but like out of those 5 guys, like there's no one that's like elite at that or high end at that. And it's just killing them right now. Between that and losing faceoffs, it's tough to watch, man. It's the power play has been so bad. What would be your ideal first power play unit? I don't know if you kind of mapped this out before the show, but would you make any changes to the first unit? Like, are there guys that you want to see out there? Like, what would you do with this first unit? Because it needs something. It needs to change because it's just not been close to good enough.
Absolutely, I would make changes. I need to reward guys who are giving me the effort. So for me, it starts with Kuzmenko off and Coronado on. And it's simply the fact that they're both right-handed shots. They both have a good shot when they're on their game, and one of them is performing, and one of them isn't. So reward the guy who's playing well. So for me, Coronado starts on there. I leave Nazem Kadri on that top line. He can win faceoffs. He can be a good net front presence guy. He can play in the bumper spot if you need him to. I have Sharangovich still on that power play unit as well. And then I put Connor Zary on it. I said at the beginning of the season, Connor Zary on that line. I think he would do a lot of good up there. And I run with Mackenzie Weegar at the top here. So only a couple small tweaks to it, but I'm taking the 2 guys that just aren't working off that unit. I take the 2 guys that the play goes and dies. And whatever Kuzmenko was doing to start the year on their power play, he's not doing it anymore. And Huberdeau, well, the play just goes to die on his stick. So put him on power play 2 and elevate Connor Zary. Let the kids show the energy. Let them play. Let them get the pucks on net. Let them move it around. Let them use their speed and try to create something a little bit different than what we're seeing on the Flames power play, because that puck goes to Kuzmenko, he loses a battle, it's out of the zone. The puck goes to Huberdeau, he acts like it's a live grenade and it's out of the zone, and you're chasing. And when you're constantly going back into your own zone, your point of the entries comes right back into play. The Flames don't have a guy to do these entries as consistently as we saw in the past with guys like Johnny Gaudreau. Use these guys and change it up just a little bit. And it starts for me as well, win these face-offs. However you have to win them, outman the opposition and win that face-off, set it up, and go to work.
Yeah, I agree. And my I put together a different first power play unit. Actually, I have a couple differences than you, which is great for the podcast.
Yeah, love it.
So we'll start kind of at the bottom end of the power play there. And I still have Kadri and Kuzmenko out there because I do think Kuzmenko, despite the lack of production, I still think he has the best vision, and I still think he's probably the most talented and best passer on the team right now. And I think that it's going to come for this guy. I don't know when it's going to happen, but I just feel like he's going to break out at some point. And I still think him and Kadri have a good connection down low. So I have those 2 guys down low. And then I have the same thing as you. Put the kids on the first unit. Coronado and Zary. They're arguably the 2 most dynamic forwards on the roster right now. Zary he's a great puck carrier. Maybe he's a guy that could kind of take control of entries on that first unit. He's also been one of their better playmakers too. He's making great passes this season. And he did quite a bit of that on the power play last year too. So I'm with you. Put Coronado and Zary out there. Reward those 2. They've been so good for this team. I have Sharangovich off the top unit. I have Coronado in his place as a shooter because I just, man, you watch, especially that overtime power play in Buffalo. They had 80 seconds and they barely got a shot off. And Sharangovich was a big reason why it struggled so much. It's just, for me, you said the play dies on Huberdeau's stick right now. I'm feeling the same kind of way about Sharangovich right now. I just have not really liked this game. I would take him off that top unit. So I replace him with Coronado. I take Huberdeau off the top unit. I replace him with Zary. Huberdeau's passing and playmaking is just it's just been nowhere near as good as Connor Zari's this year. And then I would also actually change Mackenzie Weegar. I would take him off that top unit, and I'd replace him with Rasmus Andersson right now. Because I think Rasmus Andersson is a better skater than Weegar. He's a better puck carrier than Weegar. And he's just been playing better hockey, especially offensively this season. So I think I would reward Anderson as well. So my top unit, once again, Kadri, Kuzmenko, Coronado, Zary, and Anderson. And reward guys for playing well. Put Coronado out there, put Zary out there, put Anderson out there. Enough of just, gift wrapping these positions in prime scoring positions to guys like Huberdeau and Sharangovich, and you had Kuzmenko off of there. Like, stop doing that. Stop gift wrapping these and start putting the kids out there because they deserve it.
I like what we both done here, though, is we both done one thing that the Flames haven't done all year, and that's be bold and make a decision that benefits the team and reward the players who are working. And both of our units here show that we are rewarding these guys that have gone to work, who have put forth the effort to be in that conversation and say, hey, we're not going to accept the lazy play. I don't care what your contract says. I don't care what you had promised in the past. We're here to win hockey games and to play good hockey games. And if you're not going to be a positive side of that, we're not going to have you on our unit. We're gonna put these other guys out here who are going to go for us and put the work in. I love your unit. I love what you said about Kuzmenko and Kadri, and I love that rationale there. And I left Sharangovich on for the one thing and one thing only. I just think he has one of the most deceptive shots and releases. You get Coronado one side, Sharangovich the other side, both on their one-time side. I think there's going to be a lot of damage there, but I also see the benefit of the Kuzmenko and Kadri with their connection and the vision of Kuzmenko. Lots of options for the Flames to have on their power play units to be able to be more successful on it. There's one guy that I'm surprised neither of us mentioned, though, for our power play units. And I think this guy will be on my second power play unit if I were to revamp that one too. But he struggled for the Calgary Flames this year. He's been asked to do a lot in a lot of different spots. What have you made of Martin Pospisil? What do we do with Martin Pospisil? And where do you think the long-term fit is for this player on the Flames, regardless if it's at center or the wing? Where are you at with Pospisil here?
I think it's one of the most interesting conversations right now amongst Flames fans and like on social media is the whole Pospisil debate, because there were like very high expectations for him coming into the season. And that was kind of set by the fan base. Like I remember in the preseason, I was putting out kind of line projections like, hey, like this is what I would like to see the lines look like. And on pretty much all of them, I had Pospisil as the fourth line center. And I had so many people come back at me like, "Oh, I can't believe you're putting the fourth best forward on the fourth line, or you're putting one of the Flames' 9 best forwards on the fourth line." And I just kept thinking to myself, like, are the fans overrating him? Am I underrating him? But I actually think I had it right. I think people were kind of overrating Pospisil's skill and just like what he is as an NHL player. Like my opinion of the player is that he is a bottom six winger, and he is very good at what he does. But once you start to give him more responsibility, he's just not the same guy. And like for me on Barn Burner, I think it was either last week or the week before that, Rhett Warner, I think said it best in like the entire market. And Rhett pretty much just talked about how the Flames are just putting way too much on this kid's plate. And that falls on Ryan Huska. I think Ryan Huska needs to do a way better job in managing Martin Pospisil, because it's like, they want him to play center. Then they want him to play wing. They want to play, center in the top six, center in the bottom six. They want him to be defensively responsible. They want him to create offense. They want him to play hard and get under opponent's skin and piss them off. But, you better not take a penalty. You can't take penalties. But yet we want you to be incredibly physical and lead the team in hits. But don't take a penalty. Then we want you to win faceoffs, and we want you to score goals and make plays and, carry Jonathan Huberdeau. Like, it's just way, way, way too much for this kid. He's a fourth round pick. He's a guy that just started in the NHL. He's not good enough to carry all that burden on him. He's just not. So if I were the Flames and I were Ryan Huska, I would just sit down and just be like, hey, what made him successful last year? And that was, he was essentially the third wheel on a line, and they just told him, go. Forecheck, hit everything that moves. Everything in sight, hit it. go to the net, piss off the other team, get under their skin, get them wanting to chase you around the ice and distract them. Do that. And just do that well. Focus on just those things. Don't focus on faceoffs. Don't focus on defense. Don't focus on trying to, get Jonathan Huberdeau being back to the player he was. Just be a grinder. Just be that guy that just pisses people off, hits and grind in the bottom six of the lineup. To me, that is exactly what he needs to do to get back to being successful. And it's exactly what they did last season. So I would just say, take all that responsibility off of his shoulders and just do what you did last year, because it worked really well. And he's a very effective bottom six guy. There's no doubt about it. But I don't think he is. I don't think he's a top 9 center, and I don't think he's like a top 6 winger either. And that's okay. He's a 4th round pick. He's found money. Like, not everybody can be a top 6 forward in the NHL. And I don't think Pospisil is. And I really hope that they just kind of focus on making him a bottom 6 grinder again, because that's when he's his best.
And that's okay, right? Like, this fan base overrates their guys. We know that. That's just how it is. You love your guys. You overrate these guys. The expectations for Pospisil for me were ridiculous, to be honest. Everyone thought this guy was going to be the 2C. And I was more along the lines of your thinking this offseason. This guy should fit in a 4th line role, maybe a 3rd line energy role, and he should succeed and excel at it. Not everyone needs all the responsibility on their plate. Some players just aren't that type of player, and that might be Martin Pospisil. But then that's also okay, because you need those role players to be part of your organization to be successful. We see it time and time again. Guys like Bickle get a bunch of money, or a Goalie gets a bunch of money from the Blackhawks just based on the role that they had with the team at that time. You need these guys, and that's okay. So the Flames, I'm right there with you, Robert. Reapproach what you think about Martin Pospisil and where you put him in this lineup. This guy should be a Matthew Tkachuk-esque guy without the offense. So go out there, be a pain in the butt to play against, use your speed, get under people's skin, be a guy that people don't like to play against, and you can be successful off of that. Just simplify the game for this guy. I don't think he's a center. I just don't. He might be in the international game at a world championship for Slovakia, and that's good for him. But in the NHL, this is a different wagon. For me, the perfect spot for him is being taken up by Matthew Coronado. I would love to see Pospisil with a Backlund and Coleman and just go work, right? Just go do your thing. Elevate Coronado to maybe a more offensive role. With the injury to Mantha, maybe that opens up a spot for him. Just spitballing here, but that's what Pospisil needs. The simplified role. He doesn't need a bunch of extra responsibilities. He definitely doesn't need to carry Huberdeau on his back, because, well, that's just a daunting task for anybody, really. Let's be honest here. And just let him go play his game. And that's the biggest thing for me. And I'm with you on Ryan Husky here. Why are we doing this? Why are you doing it? And it's evident from day one that this probably wasn't going to be a role for Martin Pospisil. Let him go do what he was doing to be successful. You have other guys in the organization that you could add things to the plate. You haven't tried Connor Zary where Pospisil is. Why not try that? Why not go down a different path here and do it? And we'll see what happens here. Does the injury to Anthony Mantha for you, and we'll talk about Anthony Mantha in just a sec here, open up a door for a different role for Martin Pospisil or a Matthew Coronado here, Robert?
I don't think so, because I think kind of like what I just said with Pospisil is, I'll quite honestly, I don't really care like where he plays in the Flames lineup. It's as long as he is the third wheel, kind of like I mentioned. Like, as long as he's the guy that's just out there to forecheck and just go wild, collect pucks, just do what he does well. I really hope that a guy like Pospisil just isn't put in a position where he's relied upon to create offense. Like, I just don't think that's his game. So, and then when it comes to Coronado, I really, really like him on a wing with Backlund and Coleman. I think those guys have been the best, the most consistent, the best line for the Flames in the last little bit here. So the loss of Mantha, like, it stinks. I feel really bad for the guy, because, he signs a 1-year contract. Arguably, like, this was his chance to kind of prove to teams around the league that he can be a little bit more consistent and that he can be relied upon. And there were moments this season when he was that guy and he was really good. But then there were moments when, inconsistency plagued him, kind of like what's happened his entire career. So it sucks for Anthony Mantha that he gets hurt, because I think this is kind of one of his last chances to really prove that he's a full-time NHLer. And now with this injury, is anyone even going to sign him this summer? Like, is he like a PTO guy? Will he have to maybe go to Europe soon? Like, I feel bad for him in that regard. In terms of like the Flames lineup, though, I mean, I don't really see much changing all that much. It just kind of seems like, you plug Matt Coronado into his spot and you kind of move on a little bit. And I do like Coronado on Backlund and Coleman's wing. I think it's a great place for him to learn, a great place for him to develop. Like, we talked about in the past, like so many other wingers have done with those guys. So I don't think the Mantha loss on the ice is huge for the team. I think we kind of saw that on the last road trip here with Coronado replacing him, and Coronado was probably their best forward. So it sucks for Mantha, but I don't see kind of elevated roles for either of those guys.
And then, just for news' sake, if anyone has missed the news, Anthony Mantha is out for the season, ACL injury. Unfortunate for him. I wonder if the Flames revisit Anthony Mantha in the offseason to bring him back to try this again, or if he tries it somewhere else. Kind of a crossroads for him in his career now. So I feel bad for Anthony Mantha. Guys shouldn't lose their job based on injury, but it does happen in sports. Unfortunately, that's the thing. Bit of a freak accident for him. So we wish Anthony Mantha well on his recovery.
Yeah,
hopefully,
it was totally a bizarre play. Hey,
yeah, just like a know-nothing play.
Yeah, it was just behind the net, just like a little bit of body contact, like kind of a hit into the boards, and that tears an ACL. It's just I feel bad for the guy. That's a brutal injury, and inconspicuous. It's just a really weird one. I just feel bad for the guy.
Whether it's with the Flames next year or somewhere else, hopefully he does have another shot somewhere, because he is a great guy. And when he's on his game, he actually is a fun player when he decides he wants to play and be part of the actual game plan that day. We saw it at times this year. Game 1 of the season comes to mind right away with the Goalie hat trick. If you're engaged and he's engaged, he can be an effective player. So hopefully he gets another shot wherever he is. So Anthony Mantha, hopefully he heals up fast. One of the big bright sparks we've been talking about all season long, and something that I want to talk about on the show today, I'll kind of rant here, and not rant, I guess I'll kind of spiel my thoughts here and then send it over to you to react here, Robert, is the goaltending. We saw the Flames come into this season, and Jason LaBarbera said it in the media, where they had a 10-game rotation, put in pen on the paper, and said they were just going to roll these guys back and forth. And that's what they did. And both goaltenders went out there and showed why they deserved the start, and really gave the team, regardless of the game, an opportunity to win outside maybe a game or two each. Then we saw, over the course of this last couple weeks here, we saw both guys get an opportunity to go back-to-back games for the first time this year. And again, both guys rewarded the coaching staff for the faith put in these guys. So my question, and I think they should, my question then is it time to reward these goaltenders based on performance? And an example would be they rewarded Vladar with a shutout with the next game. They rewarded Wolf in Montreal for that outstanding performance. He's probably the reason the Flames won that hockey game with the game in Boston. Is it time, in your opinion, Robert, like it is in mine, that they should start rewarding these guys based on play? Is it time to start giving these guys, say, 2 or 3 starts in a row here, saying, hey, you win, you're in type of situation. You've done so well for us this game. We're going to give you the next game as well. Do you see it that way, or do you like and would like them to continue with the rotation of back and forth?
It's going to kind of sound like a cop-out answer, but I almost feel like a hybrid model, like something in between those two is what makes the most sense for this goaltending duo. I like the idea of rewarding your goaltenders, but at the same time, I really, really like the way they've gone about their goaltending starts this season. And we touched on this in previous episodes, but just the fact that they continue to kind of protect and shelter Dustin Wolf a little bit, I think is super, super smart. And I think it's something that they should continue to do this season. So, like, for example, tonight they're playing the LA Kings at home. Dustin Wolf's getting the start. Dan Vladar is probably going to play tomorrow night in Vancouver. once again, hostile environment, second of a back-to-back, travel that night. Vladar gets the more difficult of the two starts. I like that. I really like how they put Dan Vladar in those positions that are really difficult for the team, because Dustin Wolf, like he's so young, he's so inexperienced, the future's so bright for him. I don't know if I like the idea of like throwing him to the wolves necessarily. Maybe that's something you do later on in the season, but like for the first half of the year here, maybe even like into game 50, game 60, I like what they're doing right now. I like that they're putting Dan Vladar in those tough situations, and they're giving Wolf, I would call them softball starts by any stretch, but they're giving him some of the easier, kind of more cushy starts this season. Mm-hmm. I think that's great for his development moving forward. So I'm kind of okay with them doing what they're doing. I don't think I need to see Dustin Wolf start 4 games in a row or Dan Vladar start 4 games in a row. I kind of like what's going on. People probably are throwing their phone against the wall, screaming, what the hell is this guy talking about? Like, start Dustin Wolf. But
yeah,
I kind of like it. I'm probably in the very, very small minority of people who like what's going on right now.
If you read X, and we know that's just a small portion of the fan base, Dan Vladar should be in the sun right about now, and Dustin Wolf should be the only goaltender on the roster starting every single game. The fact is, it comes down to, for me, is both these guys have given you very similar, almost exactly the same stats. If you look it up on NHL.com, they have the exact same save percentage at .906. Dustin Wolf's save goals against average is slightly higher, 310 to 2.6 to Dan Vladar. So very similar goaltending for both these guys. For me, that speaks to the consistency in the position. Both of these guys are rewarding the Flames for the faith put into these guys, and both of them are taking on whatever role they've been given by the Flames and running with the ball here. We know Vladar is playing for a contract. He's playing for an opportunity going forward. We know Dustin Wolf is playing to be an NHL goaltender to prove that he is the guy, and they are pushing one another in a positive manner, really trying to up one another, really trying to show that they are the guy. And the benefit right now is the Calgary Flames. They stole that road trip for the Flames for the most part. They stole some wins before the road trip. We saw it more times than not, especially that Montreal game that Dustin Wolf was tremendous in. And it's great. It's great to watch that this is the problem. Like, you watch before the preseason, you watched a lot of people talk about it. You read a lot of people talk about how the Flames goaltending might be the downfall of this team, might be the reason why this team isn't in the playoff race. And these two guys have got out there and be like, no, hold on. We're not the reason that this team might not be the playoffs. We're not the reason that these guys aren't going to be successful. We are the reason this team's going to be in the fight most nights. And I wonder how much as well the Devin Cooley experiment in the American Hockey League is also pushing these guys. Just want to throw this out there. Devin Cooley, in his last 8 AHL starts, has just a mediocre 972 save percentage and a .087 and a .087 goals against average.
3 shutouts too, I believe.
And in his 10 starts, he has 3 shutouts. So
unbelievable.
So if these two guys know what's behind them in the AHL, they know what Devin Cooley is doing here. And these guys have really been like, no, we can't have any part of that in the NHL because we need to show that we are the thing here. So the Flames in goal right now, 3-headed monster, even though Cooley hasn't been in NHL games yet, but those numbers are absolutely ridiculous. Just wanted to show that this Jason LaBarbera is doing a tremendous job. And so whatever way he decides to go, whether it's a rotation or whether he's going to reward guys with more than one start in a row, I'm okay with, because whatever he's doing right now with these guys, it's absolutely working. But those numbers for Cooley are just, they're mind-boggling. That's video game numbers.
That is video game numbers. And this is like the Devin Cooley fan podcast between you and I. We both love this guy. And yes. I think we both think that he's going to be an NHLer soon. Long term, what do you do with Dan Vladar? In my opinion, I think it's insanely straightforward. And anyone who doesn't think it's straightforward, I think is crazy. It's you trade this guy. I don't know when you trade Dan Vladar. I mean, it has to be between now and the trade deadline, but maybe it's sooner now that Devin Cooley's lighting it up. But the future of the Flames crease is Devin Cooley and Dustin Wolf, is it not?
It has to be. It has to be. You have both these guys signed on contracts next year, both of them on one-way contracts. Vladar's a UFA, and there's going to be a market for him. There's already a market from him if you read what you want from Colorado Avalanche media and that fan base. There's already a market started for a guy like Dan Vladar to go in there and help solidify someone's goaltending. And with these numbers that he's putting up, how do you not look at that and say, hey, those are terrific numbers. We could use that. Like right now, I use Colorado as the example because you look at their goaltending. Dan Vladar's numbers are miles better than anything that you're going to find in the Avalanche organization right now. It's absolutely ridiculous what he's doing for the Flames and putting himself in that position. So for me, it's very straightforward. You trade Dan Vladar. You've created that market, build on that market, make the bidding war happen, and just recoup some draft picks for this guy. It's pretty straightforward for me as well because your future is Dustin Wolf. He's showing you he's ready for it, and Devin Cooley's showing you that, hey, I'm too good for the American Hockey League. Remember, if this was Dustin Wolf with those numbers, people would be clamoring for this guy to get starts over Dan Vladar. So
for sure.
This guy's showing he's too good for the AHL, and he's ready to take the next step. So the Flames are in a very good spot here. And I hope that it happens, and I hope that all three guys continue to find the success. That's the fan side of me coming out, the soft side of me. All three of these guys deserve to find some success somewhere. Unfortunately, one of these guys is going to have to find it outside the organization, but that's a good problem to have right now if you're a Calgary Flame.
Yeah, I still think Dan Vladar's ceiling is not as high as Dustin Wolf and Devin Cooley's. Every time I watch Cooley, I'm just like amazed with the athleticism. I'm just amazed with like how a guy his size moves around in the crease and just how easy he makes it look. Every time I watch him, I'm just like, this guy has to be in the NHL soon. And Dustin Wolf is a freak. I mean, he is an absolute freak in that now. Just how quickly he moves post to post and his agility and his hand-eye coordination. It's just crazy. So, and with the way Dan Vladar's playing right now, the Flames should be able to get a half decent return for him. Like, I got to think you should be at least able to recoup a third-round pick. And, you know, maybe if Colorado or a team like Philly or hell, maybe even like Edmonton gets desperate enough, maybe they throw a second-round pick. Maybe they even throw a conditional first if Vladar keeps up this type of play. It's pretty exciting if you're Craig Conroy in the goaltending department right now, because like you said, you got three guys going right now, and the future looks very bright when it comes to Dustin Wolf and Devin Cooley.
We are getting up against it here, but I want to share this before we move on here, because just to show you how good the goaltending for the Flames have been, the Avalanche best goaltender has a 2.6 goals against average and a 894 save percentage. That's the best the Avalanche have to offer, and that Vladar's numbers dwarf that. Capo has an 800 save percentage. Gorgiev has an 851 save percentage.
Ugh.
Just gross. Could you imagine doing a podcast for the Avalanche right now? That'd be just disgusting.
that team's super interesting. Hey, they're like a 3-person team. It's the McKinnon, Ranton, and McCarr show there. There's nothing else going on that team right now.
And they've had some bad injury luck as well. Like the guys that they had for depth are no longer there because they don't have. Unfortunate for them. The Avalanche team should have been more than a one-off Stanley Cup champion, but we digress here. We are up against the hour here. We are recording on a very special day across North America. Whether you're in America, in the United States, it's Memorial Day down there. We call it Remembrance Day here in Canada. We just want to take a quick second here to send our thanks to those men and women. We share our love and respect to those who have gone out and continue to go out to serve this great nation and to give us the freedoms that we enjoy every single day, like this podcast. I am very grateful to have family members in my family that have gone and served, and I thank my granddad and my great uncles for their sacrifice during World War II, and anyone else who's gone out and done anything for this country in that manner. We appreciate you. We want to take the time on this Remembrance Day to remember you, and hopefully you wore your poppies and you gave thanks to anyone in your life that has done service for this country. We appreciate you, and happy Remembrance Day to our Red Mile Rundown fan group. We appreciate you guys as well. Robert, anything to add from your side there?
No, just echo what you said. Just thank you to all the men and women out there that serve our country and keep us safe. And shout out to my cousin Riley, who's in the Canadian military. He's actually in England right now, doing some training. So very proud to have a member of my family in the military as well. And yeah, just if it wasn't for our military and the people that sacrificed their lives to do that, we wouldn't be in the situation where we are today. So yeah, just thank you very much, and wear your poppies, as always.
Yes, always wear your poppies. And looking forward to the military tribute before the Flames game on Monday night against the divisional foes. Got a couple of those this week. Looking forward to the action this week. We appreciate you guys, as always, with the downloads. We encourage you again to go give us that 5-star review. Leave a comment. I got a new one on YouTube today. Appreciate all of those who are continuing to watch on YouTube as well for the downloads. This podcast is doing much better numbers than either Robert or I thought in the first few weeks here. And so, again, thank you so much for all of those things. Robert, what's coming up from you on Flames Nation, and where can these folks continue to find your work?
Yeah, I mean, I pretty much just regurgitated my article that I I put out today on Flames Nation about the
go read it anyways.
Drying up. But yeah, please go out and read it. It's actually one I'm really proud of. I'm really happy with how it turned out. So check that out at flamesnation.ca. And yeah, just continue to follow me at Ring of Fire CGY for highlights and stats and opinions and all that kind of fun stuff.
And don't forget to follow the show across social media platforms at Red Mile Rundown. I'm Vintage Johnny 84 across those same platforms. And appreciate you again downloading wherever you are, Apple, Spotify, Samsung, wherever you get your podcasts. We continue to have those down for you. And we will see you guys next week on the show. A big week ahead for the Flames, and looking forward to the action. Have a great one. We'll see you next time.